Middlesbrough have already been busy this summer, but two new arrivals mean that the club are really in a fine position for kickstarting a promotion challenge. I'm really appreciating all your support on the channel. If you are enjoying what I'm doing with regards to Middlesbrough Football Club and the wider EFL, please do hit like on this video and please do hit subscribe because there's going to be plenty more coming over the coming weeks. A large part of that is down to Middlesbrough's transfer business and what they've been doing over the course of this summer. Now, obviously, the club have already brought in Luke Ayling on a free transfer. They brought in Delano Bergzorg. He arrived from Germany, having spent last season with Huddersfield. And Aidan Morris also arrived from Columbus Crew. Now, Middlesbrough are already being tipped as sort of outsiders to challenge for automatic promotion. The hope is that they will get into the playoff places. But these two new arrivals, who are set to arrive over the coming days, are really, really threatening Middlesbrough to really challenge the elite in the championship. Now, the first deal that's expected to be completed at the time of recording, the deal hasn't been done, but it is expected to be done imminently, is the arrival of Micah Hamilton from Manchester City. Now, the youngster is expected to arrive on a permanent deal. There's been a lot of discussion about what the fee might be and how the deal could look. There was a bit of talk that it could be a loan deal. He's going to be arriving on a permanent basis with a reported initial fee of £3.5 million. Now, as part of that deal, Manchester City know that he's a very, very talented player, someone who is likely to be playing in the Premier League before too long. And so it's also been reported that they're inserting quite a hefty sell-on clause into the deal with Middlesbrough. They also are putting in a reported buyback fee of around about £11 million into the deal as well. So, in theory, what that would mean is that in January or next summer, if Hamilton has absolutely ripped it up at the Riverside Stadium, Manchester City will have a pre-agreed deal in place to sign him back to the club for £11 million. Now, that's not necessarily to mean that he'll be coming back to play for Manchester City, but should he absolutely be outstanding in the Championship, they could then, in theory, buy him back for £11 million and then sell him on for 20 million or 25 or whatever it might sort of be. Now, for Middlesbrough, this seems like a fairly sensible deal to do. Hamilton is a player with a really, really high ceiling in the game. He's already played a number of times at first team level. He's played 3 first team matches for Manchester City, scoring 1 goal and providing 1 assist. Those matches have come in he's played in the Champions League. That's where his goal came. He's very, very highly rated. He was one of these sorts of players who was sort of in and around Pep Guardiola's squad last season. He was often on the bench. He was used in cup games and really just the sort of player that you maybe expected to follow in the footsteps of someone like a Cole Palmer, or even previous to that a Phil Foden, or last season it was Oscar Bob, who was being projected into the first team fold at Man City. But I think it's caught a few people off guard that he's going to be allowed to leave on a permanent deal. It seems like a great deal for him. A great deal for Middlesbrough, kind of reminiscent of the sort of deal that took Morgan Rogers to Middlesbrough last summer. Now, his situation was slightly different in that he left Man City at the end of his contract, but he came to Middlesbrough, was able to really find his feet, show what you could do in the Championship, and then obviously he secured a move to Aston Villa in the Premier League. And I think the feeling with Micah Hamilton is that it could be a similar sort of arrangement with him. I don't think anyone would be expecting that he would be coming to Middlesbrough to stay with the club for years and years, such as his potential. I guess the hope in an ideal world is that he would come to the club, help Middlesbrough get promoted, stay with Middlesbrough in the Premier League, and then he could stay with Middlesbrough and he could grow with Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough could grow with him. But I think the feeling is that he will be a player who will reach the very, very top of the game. And so it's sort of a deal that just kind of makes sense for all parties. Middlesbrough are going to be getting a top quality player. Micah Hamilton gets the opportunity to go and find a home somewhere and really kick on and show what he's all about. And Manchester City have the security of not just losing one of their key assets. They're letting him go, but they've also got the option to bring him back should he go on and do what they expect him to be able to do. So a little bit about Micah Hamilton as a player. He's an attacking player. He's a player who plays on the left side, plays on the right side of midfield as well. I think most of his performances have come from the left wing. But he can, as I said, play on the right wing as well. So he does offer that versatility. He can play attacking midfield as well, so the sort of number 10 role. And I think in terms of Michael Carrick's team, that's really, really important. Carrick likes players who can come in and play in a number of different positions. It offers him a couple of different routes and options for setting up his team, both in terms of the starting lineup, but also in terms of tinkering things throughout the afternoon. So the fact that he can come in and play in all three of those positions, he can also play as a striker should he need to, although it's not his best position. But he can come in and then he can be challenging for Riley McGree's place on the left-hand side of midfield. He can be offering something different to Izzy Jones on the right, or even challenging Finn Azaz. As number 10 as well. So I think for Middlesbrough, it's a really, really exciting deal. Someone who's going to offer a lot of flair, a lot of excitement, someone who's got a real eye for goal. He's not just a show pony who'll be coming in and trying to do his flicks and tricks and trying to impress. He's someone who's got real end product as well. And that means that he should be able to contribute with a good amount of goals, a good amount of assists. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does arrive in terms of whether he'll be thrown straight into the starting 11. Talking about Morgan Rogers, last season he wasn't really seen as a first choice player to start off with. He kind of came off the bench a little bit because he was a little bit raw, a little bit rough around the edges. It was very clear that there was a talented player there, but he had to get used to Michael Carrick's system, and it could be the same with Micah Hamilton. So that means that when he does come into the club, he'll be given the time to adapt to life at the club, to adapt to the demands of the Championship, and then hopefully over the other coming weeks and months we'll be able to see exactly what he's capable of. So yeah, I think at the time of recording, the deal hasn't quite been done. It is expected to be done imminently. It remains to be seen whether it'll be done in time for him to feature in the opening Championship game against Swansea. But obviously, not long after that, we've got the Carabao Cup first round match against Leeds, and then obviously the fixture list kind of goes on from there. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for him to make his debut and get himself up to speed at the club. But yeah, as far as Micah Hamilton's concerned, a really, really exciting deal for Middlesbrough, and a player who arrives, and it's something of a coup really for Middlesbrough, because not many people thought that Man City would be letting him go on a permanent basis this summer. So a great deal, a very exciting one, and one that really fits in with Middlesbrough's recruitment model at the moment. Another deal that Middlesbrough looks set to complete in the coming days is the move for Tommy Conway. Now, the Bristol City striker's in an interesting situation. For a little bit of context, he's got a year left on his contract at Ashton Gate. He's been attracting a lot of interest, and as a result of that, he's made it quite clear to the club that he's not wanting to sign a new contract there. Now, similar to a lot of clubs in the Championship, Bristol City aren't in a position to allow him to run down his deal. It means that next summer, if he was to stay at the club, he would be leaving on a free transfer. Something that Bristol City can't afford. They can't afford to lose a potential fee of millions for a player who is really expected to go on to big things. Now, Middlesbrough are one of the clubs who are interested. They've been monitoring him for a little while. There's been a couple of other clubs who've been keen to sign him as well. Hull City have been one of them. I think obviously the interest has sort of built as his contract situation has become clear in the media, and that means that over the last week there's been a little bit of a race to get his signature. For Middlesbrough, he's a player, as I said, who they've been wanting for a little while, and Middlesbrough are keen to bring in another striker. Emmanuel Latte Lath is the player who's expected to lead the line over the course of this season. We've also got Josh Coburn, who will be challenging for a place in the team as well. But it's always been a kind of priority position to get someone in who comes in with a real pedigree at a Championship level, someone who's got a proven track record of scoring goals at this level. And Tommy Conway really sort of fits the bill. Now, it's been reported that the deal could be worth in the region of £5 million. At the time of recording, there's a little bit of toing and froing about how that deal will exactly look. I think Middlesbrough are wanting to do a deal that is a little bit more based around future incentives, like goals scored and whether Middlesbrough win promotion and that sort of thing. I think Bristol City are hoping for a little bit more cash up front for the deal, but I think given the situation and given Tommy Conway's contract situation, you kind of find that Bristol City are in a position where they're almost not really in a position to negotiate. They'll have to accept an offer if they want to sell him this summer. They might not be able to choose exactly the terms of it, and they might have to cut their losses a little bit from that point of view. So for Middlesbrough, it does look like a deal that will be done. A £5 million fee for a player is quite a lot in today's market, but I think Tommy Conway comes with the real sort of potential, but also immediate quality to come in and do a job. So over the last couple of seasons, he's been playing regularly for Bristol City. In the 22-23 season and the 23-24 season, Conway's managed to score 12 goals in all competitions in each season, so that's 24 goals in total. 22-23 scored 9 in the Championship and got 3 assists. Last season he got 10 in the Championship and got 1 assist. So he's a player who really knows where the back of the net is, considering Bristol City weren't exactly pulling up trees over the last couple of seasons. That's quite an impressive tally, and for someone who is only 22 years of age, I should say, it was his birthday just a couple of days ago, hence the mistake there. He's someone who really does have the future ahead of him, someone who's going to grow and only get better at Championship level. And I think a move to Middlesbrough is going to be a really appealing one for him because, as we all know, we all watch Michael Carrick's team, and we know that he's a no-nonsense attacking style of coach. It means that there's going to be plenty of chances created for him. It's very much about trying to outscore the opposition, and that means for Tommy Conway, there's going to be a lot of chances presented to him. That should in turn equate to goals if he's a decent finisher, which we sort of know he is. So that means that for him, it seems like a no-brainer to move to Middlesbrough. Obviously, the hope as well is that Middlesbrough will be challenging for promotion as well. So that means that for Conway, there's a very realistic opportunity to be hopefully be playing his football in the Premier League in the next couple of seasons. So it's a move that makes sense for Conway. It's one that will be good for him and it will make him happy. He gets his move. He'll get likely a slightly larger contract than he's on at Bristol City, and we'll also get the opportunity to play in an attacking team who are challenging for the Premier League. And for Middlesbrough, it fills that position that they have been looking for all summer, someone to come in and someone to challenge Emmanuel Latte Lath. Obviously, Middlesbrough do tend to play with one single striker with this kind of supporting cast behind them in Riley McGree and Finn Azaz and Izzy Jones, but Tommy Conway will come in and he will offer an alternative to Emmanuel Latte Lath. I'm sure at times he will be playing alongside him as well. And it's just great for Michael Carrick to have these options in attack because, as we know, a season is long. We saw it last season. There's always a potential that there can be injuries along the way. And there was a bit of a feeling that we were a little bit maybe reliant on Emmanuel Latte Lath. If he was to pick up an injury this season, it would kind of leave us a little bit short in attack because while I'm a big fan of Josh Coburn, and I think he could go on to be a good player at Championship level, I think if Emmanuel Latte Lath did get injured, I think it would be quite a big ask for Josh Coburn to lead the line and be successful enough to really guide us into the top 6 and beyond. So I think Tommy Conway would be a brilliant signing. I think he's expected to join in the not too distant future, in the coming days, most likely. And I think for Middlesbrough, that's really, really exciting because if we can sign Micah Hamilton and Tommy Conway, bring them both in, it adds a little bit of quality to the attacking line. I'm not exactly sure what that will mean for a couple of other players in the squad. I mentioned Josh Coburn. Could it potentially free him up to leave the club, either on loan or on a permanent deal? I'm not too sure. I think he could do with playing regular first team football this season, so that'll be an interesting one for him. I've also seen a couple of suggestions on social media, nothing from the club or in reports, but Alex Gilbert could be someone who could also benefit from heading out on loan. He's shown what he's about at the back end of last season and during pre-season. He's someone that Michael Carrick seems to rate quite highly, but again, he will be probably wanting and needing regular first team football if he's to develop as well. So potentially the move for Hamilton could mean that he could be allowed to leave on loan as well to get a bit of extra first team football. But these are all positive problems for Michael Carrick to have. And should the Hamilton and Conway deals be completed in the next coming days or the next week or so, I think it leaves Middlesbrough in a really, really strong position for challenging for promotion this season. While Middlesbrough are looking to bring in a couple of attacking players before the end of the summer transfer window, there's always the impending threat that another club might be coming in for one of Middlesbrough's stars. Now, Emmanuel Latte Lath is a player that we've just been speaking about, but he's a player who's continuing to be attracting a lot of attention over the course of this summer. Now, you may remember that earlier on in the summer, he was linked with a move to Monaco. There's been more reports about his future at Middlesbrough with Red Bull Salzburg, Stuttgart, and Premier League side Wolves emerging as potential contenders to sign the striker. Now, it's no surprise at all that clubs are wanting to bring him in. Obviously, he joined Middlesbrough 12 months ago. And he overall he enjoyed a brilliant first season at the club. It was a little bit steady to start. He looked a little bit raw in the Championship, but he looked exciting. He looked lively. He got a couple of goals along the way. And that sort of left fans a little bit hopeful that there was more to come. And boy, did that come over the second half of the season. You only have to look at the last 2 months of the campaign, and Latte Lath scored 11 goals in 12 matches at the end of the campaign to leave fans really dreaming about what the season could hold in the upcoming campaign. So I think it's an interesting one because that was an outstanding run of form, one that has led to many people suggesting that he could win the Golden Boot in the Championship this season. Now, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that he's going to be able to keep up a record of 11 in 12 over the course of this campaign, because that'll be frankly ridiculous. But I think Middlesbrough fans are excited that they do have a striker who is able to lead the line, who will be able to score goals, and will hopefully be able to surpass that maybe 20 goal mark over the course of the Championship campaign. If he does that, I think it will leave Middlesbrough in a very strong position in terms of challenging for promotion. But obviously, we've got to get to the end of the summer transfer window with him still part of the plans. Now, reading the reports in the local media, there's been something written by Dom Shaw on the morning of recording about Latte Lath's future. And the messages are all sounding really positive as far as the club are concerned. The report saying that Middlesbrough aren't concerned at all about the reports linking him with a move away. His agent has been outspoken on Twitter speaking about him, and the noises coming out of that are that he's not looking for a move away. They don't expect him to move on this summer. I think Middlesbrough's stance is quite a strong one. Kieran Scott, he did an interview earlier on in the summer where he said, I'm just pulling up the quote now, basically saying that they don't want to let him go. The quote is that Steve Gibson is really bullish about keeping our best players. We know we can't aim for promotion and then let our best centre forward go. So that is a very clear message that the club don't want to let him leave. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that he's not available at any cost. I don't think that's how football works. I don't think that's how a club in the Championship works from a financial point of view. But I do think the Middlesbrough are in a relatively strong position from a financial point of view to keep hold of him. Obviously, over the last couple of seasons, we have sold some sort of big ticket items. Obviously, we sold Morgan Rogers in January. He went to Aston Villa for a substantial fee. Chuba Rakpom left last summer for Ajax for a substantial fee. Previous to that, in the season before, we saw Jed Spence. He left for Tottenham. Marcus Tavernier, he went to Bournemouth, all for large fees. So Middlesbrough aren't really in a position where they kind of need to sell one of their best players to get in money through the door, and we're in quite a stable position from that point of view, and that means that we are able to hold firm in a negotiation. Now, there hasn't really been any fee mentioned. It looks like there hasn't been an offer made for him just yet, to make that clear. But there is interest there, and so you can never rule out the prospect of an inquiry or an offer kind of coming in. But there's been no fee mentioned in terms of what Middlesbrough are wanting for him. And that, once again, just stands up the fact that they aren't looking to sell him. They're not willing to put a price tag on him because he's a player that they simply don't want to lose this summer. From my point of view, I think he could potentially go if a club offers a ridiculous amount of money for him. Given the way that the economy is at the moment in terms of the Premier League, but also in Europe as well, I don't really think that many clubs will be willing to do that. There's always better value options around. I think if you scour around Europe in particular, I think you can often get more for less in terms of a transfer fee, more bang for your buck. And I think Middlesbrough will be commanding a very high fee for him if they were to let him go. My prediction would be that it would probably take an offer 25 million plus for Middlesbrough to sell Emmanuel Latte Lath. I think anything less than that would be selling us short. He's got 3 years left in his contract, so it's very different to the situation with Chuba Akpom. Obviously, he had just a year left in his contract, similar to what we were saying about Tommy Conway. It would have left Middlesbrough in a vulnerable position to try and hold on to him, or move beyond the summer transfer window and see what we could do from that point of view. It could have meant that we could have lost out on that fee, so 15 million, that give or take, was a decent fee to receive for Chuba Akpom. But with Emmanuel Latte Lath, he's a little bit younger. He's a player who's only spent 1 year in England, and he's got 3 years left in his contract. There's real hopes that this season is going to be a really big season for him. As I said, the hope is he'll be able to score 20 plus goals over the course of the campaign and lead Middlesbrough into the Premier League. And it's a bit of an old cliche, but there's a reason that goal scorers and strikers are the most valuable assets in the game. They're people who win matches for you, sometimes single-handedly. And I think without Emmanuel Latte Lath, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got full faith in the recruitment team. After the last couple of years, I think they would be able to sign someone who could come in and replace him. But even as we saw with Latte Lath, it took him a little while to get up to speed in the Championship. It took him a while to settle in. It probably took a good 8-9 months for Middlesbrough to see the very best of him. And we are able to do that now, but I don't think we can afford to sell someone like that and then sign another player who then takes another 6-9 months, whatever it might take for him to get fully up to speed. So I think Middlesbrough are very clear that they don't want to lose him. He's a massive part of Middlesbrough's plans this season. Obviously, a potential deal to sign Tommy Conway will take the heat off Latte Lath a little bit in terms of the goal scoring burden. I think the hope is also that people like Finn Azaz will be able to chip in with a few goals, and Izzy Jones and Micah Hamilton if he comes in, and Marcus Force when he gets back fit, if he ever gets back fit. I think, it's going to be a very interesting season. I think for Middlesbrough, very clear that they don't want to lose Emmanuel Latte Lath. And if you were to ask for my prediction now, I'd say that I think he will still be a Middlesbrough player come the end of the summer transfer window. Middlesbrough don't want to lose him. There's been no real noises from his point of view, from his camp, that he wants to leave. So from my point of view, I think it would take an extraordinary offer for Middlesbrough to consider selling him. And quite frankly, I just can't see any of those clubs coming in with the sort of extraordinary offer that it would take to get Middlesbrough to sell. So I don't think there's any reason to worry from that point of view. I think he will be around, certainly at the start of the season. And I do think he'll be sticking around for the campaign as well, because I think it's going to be a big, big season for Emmanuel Latte Lath. And I do think that he is someone who will have a massive role to play as Middlesbrough look to challenge for promotion in the upcoming campaign. So putting transfers aside for one moment, I have had a few people asking me over the last couple of weeks to do a 1 to 24 on the Championship. Now, I've been listening to a few of these over the last week. Lots of people with a lot more knowledge of the wider EFL than me have done some really interesting stuff on the 1 to 24. It's always something that I listen to every single season to kind of get up to speed on what a lot of the clubs have been doing. Second tier podcast are brilliant at it. I always listen to that each week, and Not the Top 20 as well. I listen to a few other like club individual podcasts as well. But a few people have been asking for my specific 1 to 24 for the course of this campaign. I'll be honest, I haven't really had the time to prepare a full 1 to 24 with full rationale of each team. But I do want to just run through a couple of my predictions, and ultimately where I think Middlesbrough will be finishing this season as well. Now, I think in the Championship, I think first thing to say is I think it's going to be more open than it has been in the last few years. I think last season was a little bit of an anomaly, really, in terms of just the sheer quality of clubs that came down from the Premier League. Southampton and Leicester and Leeds all came down with just ridiculous quality for Championship level. You looked at the team sheets that they were putting out over the course of the campaign. And as we've sort of seen during this summer transfer window, a lot of those players, obviously with Southampton and Leicester, are now playing in the Premier League. People like Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is off playing for Chelsea now. Leeds are seeing Archie Gray and Crescencio Somerville snapped up by Premier League clubs as well. There's also going to be a number of other Leeds players who are going to be linked with a move before the end of the summer transfer window. So last season was exceptionally strong in terms of some of the clubs that came down. Ipswich obviously surprised a lot of people and went up automatically. This season, I think it's going to be a lot more even. I think what you're kind of finding with a lot of these 1 to 24s is that people are finding it difficult to predict them, because I don't think there's a huge amount between the clubs. And as we know, the Championship is quite a wild ride. At the best of times, it's very, very hard to predict where clubs are going to finish, just purely because it's just so open. I think so many teams are capable of having brilliant seasons and having awful seasons all at the same time, and I think it very much depends on just how the season sort of plays out. It's the sort of unpredictability of it that does make it quite tricky for so-called experts to predict. But I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think that I've nailed it down to my top six. Like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole 1 to 24. The two teams that I've picked as going up automatically, I've picked Burnley and Luton. I think they're the two teams that will go up as the top two. I've put Burnley as champions. I'll probably be wrong. I'll probably be wrong on all of these, to be fair. But I've picked Burnley as champions just because the way that they're kind of shaping up for the new season, they've got so many players in their first team squad. I think someone said the other day that they've got 38 first team players on their books at the moment. Obviously, players that were with them last season in the Premier League, new signings, players who are out on loan as well. And there's some real quality in that group as well. I think there's clearly some business to be done there over the course of the rest of the month. Players will have to move on. I'm sure that they will be looking to bring in some players as well. But I think a lot of that team is the team that got promoted under Vincent Kompany, the team that played some decent football at times in the Premier League last season. I know they got swept away by a lot of clubs in the Premier League, but I think they are more suited to playing as one of the top teams. I think they will go and they will take the game to a lot of clubs in the Championship, and that will make them a really interesting watch. Scott Parker, his appointment has divided a few people. I know he's not that exciting as a person or as a manager. But I think he's someone who knows what he's doing at Championship level. He's been promoted twice before with Fulham and Bournemouth. I do think he's someone who will do a good job with Burnley. It might not be exciting. It might not be the sort of swashbuckling football that was played under Vincent Kompany, but I think he'll come in and he'll do a job. And with the players that are there, the quality that's there, I do expect them to be in decent shape. To go up automatically as well. Luton, the team that I picked in second place in the Championship, I just think more than anything with them, it's just the consistency of what's kind of gone on. There hasn't been a huge amount of transfer business with Luton this summer. I'm probably missing out a few here, but like Ross Barkley, he left. He went to Aston Villa. They brought in Shandon Baptiste from Brentford, which could be a good signing. But the rest of the team is very much as it was. They played really well in the Premier League last season. They were quite unfortunate to go down anyway, because they were the kind of closest challengers to being able to stay up. They made it really difficult for so many teams over the course of the campaign. And the fact that they've got the same group of players who got them promoted largely, the same group of players who did very well last season. You've also got Carlton Morris and Adebayo, who scored like more than 10 goals each in the Premier League last season, which is very impressive. And obviously they've got Rob Edwards there as well, who was the manager who got them promoted, did so well last season. Really like Rob Edwards. He seems like just a quality manager, but also a quality man as well. And I just think that kind of consistency with Luton is going to serve them really well. Rattling through the playoffs, I think Leeds will be in the playoffs. I think they won't quite have enough to get automatics after losing the likes of Somerville and Archie Gray. So I think they'll be in there, possibly in third. I've got Coventry in the playoffs as well, because they're looking really strong. The squad that they're building there is looking great. They're always kind of there or thereabouts, but they're just kind of gradually building. A couple of the signings from last season, like Ellis Sims, he started to show his form a little bit in the second half of last term. So I think they'll be up there. Sheffield United, they got relegated from the Premier League. They've got the parachute money. There has been quite a big turnaround in their squad, but they have made some good signings as well over the course of this summer. People like Kiefer Moore and Callum O'Hare have joined, so I think they'll be in good shape. Middlesbrough is the standout for me, because I think they will be in the top six, and I think they won't be too far away from the automatic promotion places, if I'm honest, as well. I think Middlesbrough, you've probably gathered from my videos, I am a Middlesbrough supporter. I'm a season ticket holder, so do hit subscribe if you are interested in more Middlesbrough content. But I think Middlesbrough are going to run it really close in terms of getting into the automatic places. I think there's not going to be a lot to separate the six teams that I've just mentioned there. Middlesbrough, I think, will win a lot of games. I think they'll probably be one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the whole Championship, just because of the attacking players that we've got and the way that Michael Carrick likes to play. I'm predicting for Middlesbrough that they will finish fourth this season. like I said, I don't think we'll be too far away from the automatic promotion places. My one concern in terms of going up automatically is our defensive record. I think we play brilliant attacking football. We'll score a lot of goals this season. Don't expect that to be any different. The problem is that we do concede goals at the back, and that's not something that I think is necessarily a problem as far as Middlesbrough are concerned. I think it's almost I mean, there's plenty of people, plenty of podcasts who have a much better tactical brain than I do, but for me, it's the trade-off of playing attacking football versus defensive football. We are open, we are expansive. That's what makes us so effective as an attacking unit, but it does also have its downsides, and it does mean that we are open and we can often be caught. It's very rare that Middlesbrough keep a clean sheet just because we are so expansive going forward. And I think that's what's going to be the issue for Middlesbrough in terms of falling short for the automatic promotion places. I know it's boring, and I'm not trying to be all Sam Allardyce and Route One football and that sort of thing, but I think to get in the automatic promotion places and to get into that top two, you need a really sound defence, and you need to be able to build on that from there. I don't think Middlesbrough's defence is going to be sound enough to get into those top two places. I think we'll win a lot of matches. I think we'll score a lot of goals. I think we'll be very entertaining and we'll be right up there. But I do think there'll be a number of games, possibly 5-6 games over the course of the campaign, where we take a draw when we should be winning, purely because we've decided to keep going forward, because we've been a little bit open at the back, and we end up drawing a game that we should have won or losing a game that we should have drawn. And I just think we do have that potential and likelihood, quite frankly, where we will drop a few points over the course of the campaign doing that. As I said, it is a trade-off, because I think we'll be winning more points than we'll be losing because of that tactical approach. I think the way that Michael Carrick plays is very, very exciting, and it means that we will win a lot of games over the course of the campaign. But the risk versus reward means that we will inevitably lose a few goals. We will eventually drop points as a result of that, and that for me is what will stop us progressing from the top six into the top two. But I think it'll be a very, very, very exciting season for Middlesbrough. We'll be right up there. Firmly expect us to be in the top six. Not through any bias, just purely because the squad that we're building is really, really exciting. We've got quality all over the place, but we've also got depth as well, which is something that we haven't had last season. We haven't had in the seasons previous to that as well. So I think we're going to be in a really good shape. And for me, Middlesbrough will finish fourth, and that will be a good season. And hopefully we'll see us go into the playoffs in a really positive space. So let me know what you think. Drop into the comments below and let me know where you think Middlesbrough are going to finish this season. As I said, I'll be creating a lot more content over the course of this campaign about Middlesbrough largely, but also about the wider EFL as well. So please do hit subscribe as well. I really appreciate your support as well. And really looking forward to a good start of the season. And up the Boro.